efectos que tiene la separación de los niños de sus padres, traumas que afrontan los indocumentados, violencia doméstica, el porqué de la violencia en las escuelas. Llámanos en vivo al 1-888-900-2811, extensión 6 y haz tus preguntas al aire. ¡Comenzamos!
Good evening, my dear La Tribuna viewers. Buenas noches, queridos La Tribuna televidentes. Good evening, Oscar. Oscar está aquí. Say hello.
Hi, hello.
Okay. So today's April 2nd. Hoy es Abril 2. And interestingly, this is the third Thursday in a row, el tercer jueves seguido, que estoy haciendo un show, that I'm doing a show. And I think to me, it seemed important enough for reasons about what's going on. Obviously, the coronavirus is on the tip of everybody's tongue right now. Last week, in a show that was really unrelated to coronavirus, COVID-19 still managed to play a role. And the week before that, with Dr. Antonio Puente, a former president of the American Psychological Association, the show was dedicated to the psychological consequences of the coronavirus. So estamos haciendo, pues, a continuación un show hoy sobre el tema de coronavirus. We're doing a show today on the theme of coronavirus, but this is a first time for me doing the show, por primera vez, where I'm actually entertaining questions that were raised by people, by the public, by you viewers, some of my patients, questions that they're asking, showing me how they are affected emotionally, psychologically by this this pandemic, this horrific virus that's invading our lives, our minds, our daily activities. It's challenging our behaviors. It's affecting us financially. It's something that I in my life, and I'm not a spring chicken. No soy terriblemente joven. En mi vida no he visto algo semejante. I know that in life we have had other major calamities and catastrophes and disasters, but right now the focus we all have is COVID-19, coronavirus 19. And I wanted to give the public an opportunity to really ask questions, and there are 15 questions that I'll be reviewing with you. Hopefully they are representative of a good number of issues that most viewers, if not all viewers, would share at least an interest in one, if not more, of the questions that are being posed. I did want to say that, regrettably, I had a stellar guest scheduled to come today, Dr. Evelyn Rappoport, a dear close friend and colleague of mine for many, many years. She's unavailable. Unfortunately, it was a very last minute thing. She extends her deepest regrets, and she does offer to make an appearance in the near future so that we can actually go over additional questions and commentaries and issues pertaining to the reactions the public has in the face of this terrible, terrible pandemic. Obviously, even if it's 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now, we will have evolved from today. So I did want to at least give her a shout out. Thank you, Evelyn, for preparing for the show and for volunteering. And I do miss you. You're putting me in a situation now of having to talk a lot more than I'm accustomed to talking. But I'm grateful for your expertise, collaboration, your sharing of ideas, and your commitment to doing the show. And I did want to at least represent you to the public. Dr. Evelyn Rappoport, she's a psychologist. She has a Doctor of Psychology degree. And to her credit, in terms of being available to help me, she has assisted me on many occasions when we've had conferences, when we've done workshops. I've asked her, and she said, sure, be there. She specializes in many forms of rehabilitation pursuant to traumatic incidents, whether they are human-made or natural disasters. And we have done many shows covering both issues, the human-made and the natural disaster kind. So she seems certainly ideal for doing this. Evelyn also is co-chair along with me at New York State Psychological Association's Disaster Response Network. It's abbreviated DRN for short. And we're available as a committee to respond to questions that are raised by the communities, to be available to provide interventions, workshops, share ideas, and just really be a resource, provide a source of resource and help to those communities when some sort of tragedy or disaster affects them. So, Evelyn, again, thank you. And also, I did want to let you know that she is a past president of New York State Psychological Association's Division of Psychoanalysis. She's done many workshops. She's a couples therapist. She has an office and a practice in Manhattan. I will give you her contact information at the end. When we get into resources today, you'll see her phone number. So she has, she's traveled extensively. She's in private practice. She treats individuals, couples, and families. She integrates multiple modalities in her treatment. She specializes in somatic trauma resolution and healing. She conducts private supervision groups integrating relational and somatic therapies in New Jersey and Jerusalem. So she travels, all over the world, halfway across the world. She's a clinical consultant, supervisor at many different institutes. She's on faculty at St. John's University, postgraduate couples and family therapy, visiting faculty and supervisor at the Department of Psychiatry and Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. So she offers emotional first aid. This gets back to the trauma applications that I was mentioning before, these workshops and geared to first responders and diverse community organizations. And she's held many leadership positions. So you are missed, Evelyn, and I'll see you shortly, and the viewers will benefit from your wisdom on that occasion, and you'll probably take the point position then. Okay, I'll get even with you, and you'll do most of the talking then. So really, the show today is answering viewers' questions about coping with the psychological consequences of COVID-19. Estamos respondiendo a preguntas de los televidentes sobre cómo bregar, cómo manejar las consecuencias psicológicas, las consecuencias emocionales a raíz de coronavirus. Eso es el propósito. So it's really my inspiration. Puedes poner slide 1, Oscar. It's to respond to these questions, and there's a sample of 15 questions that address issues that I'm hoping will be helpful and responsive to the needs of the viewers. So por favor, slide 2. I do want to take the time to read a message that Dr. Rappoport would have read, but I'm going to read it for her. This is a message that she prepared for today's show. Also, I do want to mention to the viewers, as usual, the show is being recorded live right now on YouTube, and tomorrow it'll be available on YouTube, on La Tribuna TV's website. You can look it up under my hosting site. It also will be available on Facebook. This is the 33rd show that I'm doing. So I did want to mention that the number 33 holds a lot of significance for me. So the message from Dr. Evelyn Rappoport: every day the world feels as if it is in suspended animation. Time moves ever so slowly while the pandemic is spreading ever so quickly that countries all over the globe are shutting down. In New York City, traffic is light, Broadway is dark, hotels, cafes, boutique stores, and large gathering places, including synagogues, churches and schools are closed, and hospitals are overflowing. ¿Puede poner otro todavía? Oh, okay. It looks like maybe we are resuscitating Evelyn. so I'm going to continue reading. And yet, a felt sense of kindness between people is growing out of the vulnerability we all share. Hopefully, this pandemic will help us realize how interconnected we all are, how the health of human beings everywhere impacts all of us, and that we are all in this together. Inescapably, this is not her, I'm editing. Inescapably, we all are in this. I mean, we all are. The whole world is going through this. It's a global crisis of tremendous magnitude. We're all in this, and we all therefore are in this together. And we all have to work together to try to resolve this together and to help one another together. Only by prioritizing community-wide prevention can individual protection succeed. Friendships and healthy relationships have been shown to strengthen the immune system. Quarantine and social distancing does not have to mean isolation, though it does require all of us to think out of the box and develop new and creative ways of staying in touch. This crisis also is an opportunity to connect emotionally with all of our people, both far and near. Let me, as we go on to the next slide, puedo poner slide 3, let me add, as part of the introduction today, that I am not going to give you statistics. This show's not geared to tell you all the horrific things that are happening. The new cases, the number of deaths increasing every day. I don't want to get into that. You can watch the news. You can watch News 12, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, your favorite, your favorite news channel. Watch it. You don't need this show for that. So I'm not getting into the statistics. The idea here is how we can cope with the emotional dilemma imposed by the coronavirus. And I hope that by the end of tonight's show, you have at least some sense that there are things under your control, that there are things that you can do, that there are things that you can do to make your life go forward and better. So, slide 3. ¿Cómo estamos haciendo?
Ya está ahí.
¿O puede ponerla?
Doctora, ¿me escucha? Hi, doctora. ¿Me escucha? Quizás no me escucha ella a mí, pero yo sí la veo.
We're still playing with this. ¿Me pones el 3?
Okay. Ahí está.
So, eso es el 3, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted, by way of a quick review, because, those of you who follow my show, you know that we've talked on many, many occasions about symptoms adults and children experience in the face of traumatic events. I did want to talk a little bit about symptoms that adults are experiencing that are more specific to COVID-19. For instance, sleep disturbance. This is something that's, very, very common when people are upset. They have difficulty with sleeping. Appetite is disturbed. Nightmares may occur. I see Evelyn in the corner. Hi, Evelyn. Okay. Intrusive thoughts and flashbacks about images seen in the news. People are watching the news and they go to bed and they're seeing the images. They have this in their face a view of a hospital or a view of a ship or a hospital ship or nurses and doctors in hospitals in gowns and the face masks, and they have these images burned into their brain. that they take to bed with them, and they're having these nightmares. They're having the intrusive thoughts and flashbacks, so they're thinking about it all day long. Those who are glued to the TV or obsessively watching the news will have these thoughts and then flashbacks, daytime flashbacks about these images that they're seeing on TV screen. Intense physical reactions, upset stomachs, muscular aches and pains, maybe some respiratory distress, rapid breathing, difficulty moving bowels. There are physical symptoms, headaches connected with trauma. Anger, increased irritability. Of course, this is obvious. Everybody's lifestyle has been disrupted. Increased use of alcohol, substances, and medications. Risk-taking behavior. People are taking risks. They're being told, stay home, try to avoid this, but yet people still, they're not fully 100% either aware of it or wanting to accept it or somehow being cavalier about it, or it's not going to happen to me. They're getting together. There's more contact than the recommended 6 feet distancing. So there's increased risk taking, including of course the alcohol and substances and so forth. Feeling guilty. A lot of people are feeling guilty. They're not making the income. They're not able to provide for their children the way they were when they were getting free meals in school. So all of a sudden the kids are not getting the same kinds of attention that they get at home. The same thing for if it's somebody who's responsible for the whole household. ¿Me puede ella puede hablar o no?
Doctora, se fue del aire otra vez.
Ponme el 4.
Ahí está. Pruebe, por favor.
El 4.
No, ahí es doctora.
Evelyn, do you hear?
Ahí se fue, se desconectó.
Pon el 4. Slide 4.
Okay.
So some symptoms that children may be experiencing also, not unlike the adults, they're also having difficulty with disturbed sleep, nightmares. The quality of the nightmares and the dreams probably is different with children depending on the age. Disturbed appetite, physical complaints, they'll be achy, complain, my tummy hurts, little aches and pains and so forth. So there will be physical complaints. Behavioral changes, the behavioral change could be more aggression, seemingly more isolated, more withdrawn, sad, angry, nervous. These are emotional, those are emotional changes. The behavioral changes are withdrawing, staying in bed more, being more isolated, being more physically aggressive. Risk-taking at the bottom, that's also a behavioral change. We have children, I'm told by patients that children, adolescents go to a park and they're playing basketball. Obviously, you're handling the same ball and you're not keeping 6 feet of distance while you're playing basketball. And this is, in states that have mandatory stay-at-home orders. So really, I call that risk-taking. It's pretty apparent that that's a form of risk-taking. Increased preoccupation with illness and death. Children are worried, what's going to happen to me if something happens to mommy or daddy, or what about me? What if I get sick? What's going to happen to me? So I wanted now to start with some of the viewers' questions. So vamos a empezar, Oscar, con el slide 5. Y vamos a hacer, cada slide de allá es una pregunta corrida. I'll read each question and give a response. I'm worried about my children. They are moping around now that there's no school and are irritable, don't sleep well, and spend too much time looking at the news. What can I do? Well, several things. You need to firstly, and I've said this before, and I suggest that the viewers review the recording of 2 weeks ago, March 19th, that I had with Dr. Antonio Puente, where we went over the psychological consequences coping with the psychological consequences of coronavirus, and we talked about a whole bunch of coping strategies. You can't be glued to the TV. You can't be watching news nonstop, especially children. Children, and also depending on the age, the younger children are going to be scared to death. The world is a magical place for very young children, and less so as they become older and more into adolescence, and they start appreciating and being aware of the world more similarly to adults. But that doesn't mean that you want them glued to the TV watching the news. So you do need to really monitor that. In as much as you're home with them, try to discourage that, and to the contrary, encourage activities that they can do, playing games. There are many virtual kinds of games that can be done on the TV. There's no reason why children who modernly now are so social media savvy. They all have Facebook. They know how to get onto the internet, so they're all able in some way or another to connect and to have FaceTime and communicate with one another. That is something that you can encourage. Try to also structure time. So set time frames. There should be a time perhaps for reading or for doing schoolwork, a time for play, a time to help doing household chores the way you normally expected them to do. Try to have family get-togethers. Try to share your meals together, so there's more of a discussion and an opportunity to be together as a family and talk, and not focus only on the negativity of the coronavirus. El próximo número, slide 6. Okay. My partner and I used to go to work, see friends and family, went out occasionally. Now we are constantly together. We're more irritable. I'm afraid what this will do to us. Well, this is something that a lot of people are experiencing. There's bound to be, relationship-related stress at home because of this. Normally, whatever roles each of the parents had now has changed, and both parents now presently are at home caretakers. Perhaps if one parent, if not both, are able to do some work out of the home. I know that many of my psychologist colleagues and peers are actually conducting sessions through the telephone or through video conferencing. So hopefully they are scheduling blocks of time, trying to at least maintain some semblance of order in their lives. So obviously this is bound to happen, and what I think is important to do is for the partners, for the partners, whether here they have children, so in this one they're not mentioning children, but basically the partners here need to get together and talk about what it is that they can do together, what it is that they need to continue to do separately, because of whatever their own individual needs are, and for each one to respect that, to try to put some boundaries, set some limits, and encourage that there be time that there's together and that you share things together and talk about how you're feeling and open up to one another a little bit more. This should help with the decreasing the irritability. We're going to get a little bit into relaxation and some stress management at the end of the show, and I do have a surprise for the viewers that we'll get into at the end of the show. El próximo, slide 7. I can't sleep because I'm so worried. What do you suggest? Many of my patients are telling me this. Just about all of them have been reported disturbed sleep. All of them have been telling me that they're having difficulty going to sleep. Many of my patients are pain patients. They have medical issues. So they are already having difficulty sleeping because of the pain. But now they are having, on top of that, difficulty because of worrisome thoughts. So if you go to bed and you have the worrisome thoughts with you, of course that's going to make it very difficult for you to sleep. So you need to, in some way, you need to modify, you need to structure your pre-bedtime behavior so that it's relaxing ahead of time. Try to unwind, try to relax. If you enjoy watching comedies on TV or a movie that you taped or a sporting event that you liked, or something that you normally did on the computer, something that relaxes you, music, maybe some light exercising if you find that relaxing. And try to do that to unwind prior to go to bed. When you go to bed, the bed should be something that represents a place, a safe place, a place where you will get rest and be able to relax. There are many relaxation kinds of exercises that you can learn, that you can employ prior to going to sleep. You can listen to music before going to sleep. You can do some sort of a meditation type of an exercise using a mantra. Repeat that to yourself before going to bed. These are some of the things that you can do, and try to replace the negative thoughts with positive thoughts. So if you're able to pick up the negative stream of thoughts that is affecting you, that affects your sleep, and you change it to something, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to contact this person. Tomorrow I plan to reach out to one of my friends or to one of my parents. I plan to make phone calls. I plan to do something positive tomorrow. I plan tomorrow I'm going to go to the garage and work on my car. I'm into cars. Think something different that'll take your mind off of it. La próxima. Slide 8. This is actually from a patient. My surgeon canceled pain implant surgery that I was waiting to have approved for almost a year. Now what? I'm in a dark place. This is a pain patient, a patient who already was struggling for close to a year just to have a device that's called a spinal cord stimulator implant surgically placed into his body. He first had to go through a trial and had to get psychological clearance as well as medical clearance. It took months and months just to get the trial approved. Then he had to get the implant approved. Finally, it was authorized. And now, because of doctors' offices being closed and doctors really not seeing patients unless it's for an emergency, it's on hold. And this is a patient who's been on pain for so long and already in such a gloomy place that the best suggestion that I had for him and for others who might be feeling this as well is really to try to focus on staying as healthy as you can. Stay home, obviously. If you're at high risk, you don't want to be in a position of going out. Stay at home. If you can reach out to others, contact them, do that. Again, as I've mentioned before, avoid negative aspects of the news. You can certainly do things to learn how to handle your pain. There's no reason why many people cannot exercise. You need to exercise. If you're sitting around at home all the time now, and you used to be more mobile and you walked and you took subways, you took trains, or at work you were going up and down elevators, walking up and down steps, walking blocks, and now you're not doing it, you're not going to do well physically. You need to remain active. So I also recommend to people do some exercising as your body's able to tolerate. Many of the people that I work with, they've learned how to do certain kinds of physical therapy exercises, and I recommend that they do the ones that they were taught at the physical therapy place. ¿Me puede dar la próxima? This is slide 9, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. How come I see kids playing basketball in the park and my children want to play and we tell them they can't? Well, you tell them they can't because you're smart. You are really doing the smart thing, and you tell your children because we have this horrible pandemic and because the governor in New York and governors, I think, probably in almost all states. I think Florida just joined the group. I'm not sure about Texas. But I think that all states, if not almost all states now, have stay-at-home requirements, recommendations, and also distancing. How can you social distance yourself if you're playing basketball? What you're doing is, all you're doing is you're exposing yourself. Kids think that they are invincible. They are not. Children also are known to get sick. And even if the child or adolescent doesn't get sick or is asymptomatic, that person can, if contaminated, spread it to a dear elderly parent or loved one. So you tell your children that they're doing the smart thing and that they're helping not only keep themselves healthy and alive, but they're helping to keep you and your family members healthy and alive. La próxima. Slide 10. I live alone. If something happens to me, what will happen to my pet? This is so difficult for me personally to handle this, to answer this, because I am such a pet lover. You'll recall that I actually did a show on the therapeutic value of pets, and I had some invited guests to that show. But living alone, I mean, when you live alone and you have a pet, you're not living alone. You and your pet are family. Your pet is your family. So really, it boils down to thinking, what can you do with your pet? I mean, do you have trusted friends? Do you have family members? What sort of arrangements can you make? You need to think of something. I don't have a ready-made solution for you other than you do need to think about it, and perhaps even go on the internet if you're not sure or you don't have who, and find out places that are able to care for your pet rather than put your pet, God forbid, to sleep. You need to look for choices. Talk to people, ask people. If you're not sure, give me a call, give our guest a call. Talk to people, ask people. La próxima. Yeah. Slide 11. I live, my father's in the hospital. I'm not allowed to visit. What if he dies? This is so horrible, and we've already seen this. I've seen people in mourning, and they can't see their loved one. They can't go to the hospital. What do they do about a funeral? What do they do? It's horrible. It's something that's really beyond belief, that you cannot in some way hold the hand of a loved one prior to that person passing away, being there. I was physically present shortly before I lost my father. And I can't begin to tell you how wonderful that was for me to be able to do that and be able to hold his hand and to talk to him and tell him how I felt. I was not able to do that with my mother. And it was not because we had a virus. I mean, she died and I just wasn't there. And I remember what a painful, horrific experience it was. So the best that I can do is tell you to pray. Pray if you believe in any sort of religion. Contact. Stay in contact with your family members. Be a group. Use your family as a source of support. Try to stay as connected as possible, and just hope that the caretakers and the doctors will do the best they can in their power to save your father. But we're in very difficult times, and you need to in some way at least be together as a family group as much as you can, even if it's through telephones or Facebook, FaceTime, and so forth. La próxima. Slide 12. I can't stop watching the news and I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. Well, the simple thing is turn the TV off. Do something else. I live in a house in Suffolk, and I have a backyard, and I have my little baby girls, my pet dogs. I listen to a minimal amount of news. There's almost no choice now. You turn the TV on, and it's always coronavirus. You know, you're going to hear something from the governor of New York, the governor of New Jersey, you know, the White House. It's inescapable now. You're watching TV, and you'll get like suddenly there's a flash news break. So you have to do the best that you can not to expose yourself too much to it. Break away from the TV. Do something else. Play games, read a book, go outside. If you have a yard, go to the yard. If you don't, if you can take a walk, go for a walk. Obviously, you need to avoid people as much as possible and try to adhere to the requirements. But there are things you can do. I find respite. I find relaxation when I go to my own patio. I'm not focused at all on the news. I'll take photos. I'll take photos of the sky. I'll take photos of my blossoming trees. I try to write. I try to do things that take my mind off of this. I can't change it anyway. So I have to do the best that I can to continue to go forward with life. Próximo. My kids are fighting and making noise all the time. They're getting on my nerves. I'm afraid I will lose control. What can I do? This is like something that's fairly, I'd say it's probably happening a lot now, and I'm not surprised. I mean, you know, you're experiencing cabin fever. You're stuck together under one roof. There's disagreements. There's bound to be temper flare-ups. So I think that part of the answer that I gave previously is that you yourself as a parent need to recognize this. You need to understand you're dealing with children, and that this is an expected behavior and emotional reaction exhibited by a child in general when they are experiencing some sort of a traumatizing event. And certainly this is a highly traumatizing event, perhaps the most traumatizing event that they are going to experience in their lives outside of facing deaths of loved ones. So you need to tell that to yourself. And with your children, see if part of this is that they need a little bit more structure. As I said before, consider, given their age differences, see if you can structure the day a little bit so that they're doing some reading, some writing, some watching TV, but not the news, some social media interactions, and so forth. Give them a structure. We now have to structure our lives differently than what we did before. But there's no reason we cannot have a structure. And you need to find that structure. And the structure can change. It's not cast in stone. You make modifications. You try something, doesn't work, try something else. Be flexible, but work on having a structure. Próximo. ¿Cuál es este?
14.
Oh, 14. How am I supposed to go on with all these changes? Okay. I've had many patients tell me this, many of my patients already who have pain-related complaints, physical complaints, medical issues. For them already, just the idea of going on with life is something that presents a challenge for them. Many of them have these passive suicidal thoughts. It's not worth it. Why am I living like this? So it's something that I take seriously. It doesn't mean that having this thought automatically translates to somebody having thoughts that this really should come to an end already, or I'm going to end myself. I'm not saying that it has to mean that in every case. Most people probably not. They're just very frustrated. They're wondering, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And it's not necessarily that they've reached a point of sense of hopelessness. But you do need to keep that in mind, and I take that very seriously. And really what you need to do, if you're having these kinds of thoughts, what am I supposed to do? Reach out to others. Again, this is a time that, as Evelyn said in her introductory statement, social distancing does not mean that you have to be socially isolated. Having social barriers, having physical geographic barriers, doesn't mean you have to be socially isolated. If you choose to be socially isolated, it's because you yourself are not picking up the phone and contacting others. You're not doing things that you could be doing. If it's available to you, reachable to you, do it. This is something that's there. You'll feel much better for it, and then start thinking to yourself, what new thing could I do? What new thing can I learn on the internet? I've always wanted to do something along the lines of learning about photography. I've always wanted to learn something about horses or about veterinary care. Now's a wonderful time to do that. Go to the internet, learn, educate yourselves. You'd be surprised what a wonderful world of opportunities opens up if you try to educate yourself. So these are some recommendations that I have if you're feeling like, oh my God, what now? There's plenty more beyond the what now. Próxima.
Okay.
My children are suffering from cabin fever. I live in an apartment in a congested part of the city. There's nowhere to go. What do I do? Similar to one of the other questions again. It's a time really for family to have get-togethers, to share time together, to structure the time not only of the different family members but of the children. Talk to them, find out what kinds of activities they can do. Your children probably know more about the computer and social media than you do. So you can ask them to teach you things, show you some of the things that they do and like to do. Play games with them. You can play games on the computer. Try to set a little bit more of a structure, not so much I don't mean it so much in terms of discipline, but in terms of structuring the time of the day so that people feel, oh, this afternoon is, I'm going to call Uncle Bob. You know, that's part of my structure for the day. La próxima.
Okay.
I can't sleep at night wondering when the virus will get me. Can you help me to sleep better? Okay. Well, a couple of issues here. The first is this fatalistic thought that you have that the virus will get you. You know, nobody can answer that, but certainly you know what the recommendations are. Keep your distance. Avoid going out. Avoid watching the news so much. I've already said that many times. Be aware of distances. Be aware of not being around people, too many people, avoiding that. These are the things that if you reasonably follow them and you're good about it and you're consistent about it and you don't take the risks. I mentioned risk-taking. One of my patients, I was shocked, told me, he gets bored staying home, decides he wants to go out, and, if he gets it, he gets it. I don't particularly see that as a very healthy approach and attitude to take. And part of my task in working with him was really to say to him that not only is he himself compromised because of his medical issues, but if he were in fact to contract coronavirus, he's passing it on to other people. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So the fact is, why are you worrying about getting the virus? If anything, think about staying healthy. What can you do to stay healthy? What can you do about the supplies you need, about the resources that you need, about the things that are out there that you can do? Again, goes to working on setting up a new structure in your life, a new lifestyle. The sooner that people in the audience, the viewers, learn this, you'll do better. You'll have, wow, next week I have, it's organized for me. I know what I'm doing. next week. I have it planned out. You need to have that in your mind, that mindset that you now have a new lifestyle. So work on the new lifestyle and don't assume that it has to be horrific or bad. Próximo.
Okay.
My wife and I are fighting rather than coming together and helping out at home. She sleeps much of the day and I do most of the things that have to be done. What can I do to change things? People who tend to sleep a lot, sleep much of the day, I see that very often with depression. They're depressed, sense of like hopelessness, helplessness. Best thing for me is just to avoid. It's a way of avoiding life and just almost a way of just giving in to whatever it is. Why bother? Let me just stay in bed. So rather than in some way be combative or think to yourself, this is selfish of her and I'm the one stuck with this, to the extent that you can be supportive. Can I get you something? Can I get you your coffee? Can I make you your toast? Why don't you join me in the kitchen? We'll have like breakfast together. Maybe we can take a little walk. To the extent that you're including her that way, I suspect that she'll start feeling better, the depression will abate, and she'll feel that both of you now are more of a unit. And whenever she does something, make a point of observing it. Wow, like I noticed you did this. Thanks for helping me. It was very helpful. I needed that. Próximo.
Okay.
What slide are we on?
18.
Okay, coming down to the end here. All right. I get scared each time I hear the news. I try not to watch the news, but when I do, I feel like I'm having a panic attack. Thank you for any suggestions you have. Turn the TV off. Repeat after me. Turn the TV off. Or change the channel. If you're stuck with an emergency broadcast, change it to some obscure channel that doesn't pick up the emergency broadcast. Put a videotape in. Put a CD in. Do something different. Music. Get rid of your TV. I have friends who don't have TVs. They live talking to one another and sharing how they're feeling and listening to music. So this is something you can do. You have the ability to control how much news you watch. That's on you. Próxima.
Okay.
I had to put off my wedding during Easter Sunday. We planned it for so long. I can't see my fiancé. I feel that if this could happen, maybe we're being punished. This, to me, sort of has a spiritual kind of a connotation, and I did want to share it precisely because of that. I know that many of the viewers are from different religious faiths, and many, all of you, I suspect, are not able to go to your churches, your synagogues, your temples, your mosques. You're not able to go to any of these places, and you're stuck at home. Hopefully, some have been able to provide services through the internet, and I encourage you to do that if you're able to. But you need to if you have some sort of a doubt or thought that somehow you're being punished, I think that you might be better off changing the thought to maybe this is a challenge. Maybe it's a challenge because of the times. Maybe it's telling the human race that we need to have an awakening, that we need to have a coming together, that we don't really have barriers. The barriers that exist are these artificial barriers, these artificial boundaries that we've created. Maybe it's something that there's something better lying ahead. I so often have gotten patients who have been in accidents, and they tell me, if only I had left the house 5 minutes later, this wouldn't have happened. And I tell them, well, you know, how do you know that if you had left the house 5 minutes later, you wouldn't have been in a worse accident, and actually you wouldn't be here talking to me? It is what it is. You can't change that. But I think you're probably better off thinking that keep planning on it, talk about it, maintain contact with your fiancé, look at it as a challenge and rise to the occasion of the challenge and continue with it, and don't despair. And if you celebrate Easter, continue to celebrate Easter at home. Do that. You still can do that. Okay, so we're done with the questions. I really hope, I wasn't planning to do all of them by myself. I hope it was helpful. I would like to turn to some resources now. So if you, Oscar, por favor, me puede enseñar el slide, slide 20.
Yes.
So let me share my mantra. You know, I always come across, you know, I always come with my mantras over the years, you know, and sort of depends what mood I've been in, or like the kinds of interactions I've had with patients, how my practice has evolved, how my thinking about the world has evolved, how my physical health has evolved, how my spiritual life has evolved. And I've always, you know, had this silver lining thing that's been very important to me. Silver lining is like this big canvas, and I keep thinking that it's never going to be finished. I'm never going to finish my silver lining, but I keep adding to it. It's like this painting that's never finished. I keep painting, I keep adding to it, I keep creating more and more. And the more I do to my silver lining, I feel better. It's something that I'm living now. I am alive now, and I want to live now. And my silver lining is for me now. So this mantra that I wanted to share with you, and I've told it to my patients, today is one day closer to the end of this crisis. In Spanish, hoy estamos un día más cerca al final de esta crisis. And it's true. The point is, this is true. Every day, yesterday I said this to my patient, and yesterday, now today is one more day closer to the end of this crisis. There will be an end to the crisis. And this is a so much healthier, more positive way. You're looking towards the sun and not backwards. Let me also share that a friend and colleague, Dr. Patricia Pita, she created this 20-minute relaxation mindfulness video. It's available on YouTube. I gave you a picture that shows up when you open it up. And it's a beautiful picture of the sky, lovely, lovely sky. It's 20 minutes. It's a wonderful exercise. You get 20 minutes of relaxation. And it's a gift from her. So I did want to thank Pat for it. Underneath, you see Dr. Evelyn Rappoport's contact information, phone number. Dr. Patricia Pita's contact information, also phone number. I always include contact information for New York State Psychological Association. It's there. Again, I encourage you to take screenshots or photos. It'll be recorded. The recording will be available tomorrow. So feel free to download, to take screenshots of whatever slides you like. And feel free to contact these resources. And of course, the American Psychological Association, that's their contact information, the parent association. And I've mentioned before that no matter what state you're in, if you're watching from Texas or Florida, your states also have psychological associations. Just go to the internet and type in Florida Psychological Association, Texas Psychological Association, California Psychological Association. You'll get them. The wonderful thing about going to their websites is that they will give you wonderful, wonderful resources. The American Psychological Association, there are also a lot of resources. So resources for coping with COVID-19, for coping with children who are impacted with coping with different kinds of crises, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, earthquakes. It's a wealth of information that's on their websites. I encourage you to look at them. Next slide. This is such an inspirational message that was sent to me, and I wanted to give an acknowledgement to Dr. Joseph Plaud, P-L-A-U-D, Joe Plaud, P-L-A-U-D. He's a friend and psychologist from Massachusetts. He's an intellectual, a researcher, has written a lot of articles. He's been involved in a lot of books and conferences and workshops and evaluations, and he's a forensic psychologist. And he, to my delight, posted this. I would not have known this if he hadn't put it up there. And it was so wonderful that I wanted to share that with you. The message, this is John Kennedy before he was president. So it's John F. Kennedy, a speech that he made to the Democratic National Convention on July 15, 1960. So that is almost 60 years ago. We are not here to curse the darkness, but to light the candle that can guide us through that darkness to a safe and sane future. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a darkness. We can choose to curse it, or we can choose, let's go forward. Let's light the candle. That's what I've been hoping to do in this show. And those of you who know me know that I always tend to see things glass half full, and I always tend to see things as there's always possibilities. There's always something that can be done. And I believe that. And I believe that now. I have one more thing to share with you before we end the show. And it's something that I hope will really put a smile on your faces. Tienes ese video.
Ahora mismo.
I saw this today, and I just thought to myself, I have to share this to you. I have to share this.
Badal som ako po ceste beha kačička s malým. Zastal som a v kanáli som videl, že sa pohybujú ďalšie malé.
This is a video of a mother duck whose children are stuck in the sewer, in that, like in that grate. She has one little duckling with her, and watch what happens.
Za mamičkou. Moje, aké si rýchle. Zlaté to je.
Upozorňovali odstavenými blikajúcimi autami okolo idúcich vodičov na to, že sa na ceste niečo deje, aby spomalili. Ďalšie mláďa uviazlo na druhej strane cesty. Hasiči liezli do kanála popri autách, ktoré cestou prechádzali.
Now watch this worker. He almost goes all the way down. Here's another one. Crossing the street. That's a highway.
Kačacia rodina prešla z hrona cez dve dvojprúdovky plné aut. Hasiči ich
we're
naložili
not
do
finished.
auta a odviezli späť k vode. Všetky sa bezpečne vrátili tam, odkiaľ sa vybrali na výlet.
And they are taken to their new home. I saw that and I smiled. And I thought it's such a happy thing. I gave you a caption, Oscar. I don't know if you saw the caption, but I think that the caption was that kindness is something that will always, that humanity will always benefit from, something to that. Let me actually say I wrote what I thought was fairly catchy, but I'm missing it. ¿Tú no viste lo que yo escribí?
No.
Okay. It seemed cool at the moment. Just bear with me. Okay. Okay, what I wrote was the goodness of humanity always seems to prevail. That was the message that I had for all of you, and that is the message that I hope to leave you with tonight. Our collective goodness, we are good. That last little picture, this is one of God's creatures. The love and the humanity and the combining human and animal life coming together in love. This is really what will keep us going. This is how we will prevail. So my message to all of you is really, we're in tough times. Please feel free to contact me if you have questions. Dr. Evelyn Rappoport, I provided you her phone number. Dr. Patricia Pita, I provided you with her phone number as well. And, there's many references that are available for you. I hope that these questions provided some insights. I think it's important really to think about going forward. It's pointless, I think, to ask yourself, will it go back to the way it was? I mean, the odds are it won't. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. The good part of it is maybe it will make us more sensitive. Maybe it will make us more caring and more compassionate one for the other. Maybe it will melt barriers down. Maybe it will build bridges. Maybe it'll help us coming together in love. Maybe this is really a wake-up call for us to do that. So going forward, nothing is wrong with you thinking about structuring your daily activities now along a new norm. You have a new norm, and it doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It's bad if you interpret it as bad. It's bad if you place bad negative connotations. So you've got to get out of this thing of the negativity, the catastrophizing, the negative thinking. Catch yourself doing it and think to yourself, well, what can I do to make it better? You're alive. Life is precious. Life is a gift. We need to go forward with it. So with that, I'm going to say good night to everybody. Oscar, si quieres despedirte de todos los televidentes.
Feliz noche. Have a good night.
So Evelyn, you were missed. So we will have another show with you, and I hope if this has been useful in this format of receiving questions from viewers in general, not just because of the COVID-19, but in general is useful and helpful. I'll try to do this format a little bit more often where I respond to questions of the viewers. So con todo esto, un abrazo a todos, a big virtual hug to all the viewers and to everybody, and God bless all of us and God bless this planet. Buenas noches.